So Aaron Davidson running for re-election as a county clerk, and I want to talk about SB153. So a lot of people have been getting letters in the mail about the privacy categories of the voter records. So before 2020, there used to be public and private, and you could designate yourself to be a private voter, and we would hold back information to anybody that asked for the voter roll. Well, in 2020, it was actually a bill in 2019 that was implemented in 2020. So on May 12th, 2020, anybody that was in the private category was moved to a withheld category. And to get in that withheld category from that point on, you had to qualify. You had to be a police officer or law enforcement officer, military, victim of domestic violence, something along a public figure. You had to qualify to be in the withheld category. But by taking everyone that was in private and putting them in that withheld category, that then hid all the information of those voters from everybody, even the party or candidates. They could not get access to that. And so that's where the real problem began, is when it was implemented. Moving forward, there were some issues that in the last several years about gaining access to the private information that was being withheld from everybody. So now that SB 153 came into play, they got rid of the private category, and anybody that was in the withheld before 2020, they were going to be moved out also into public unless they fill out this request form. So it's just created this craziness in my office. We've received over 3,000 request forms. Salt Lake County, I believe, has received 5,000. I mean, it's just everyone's getting these request forms to get into the at-risk. It's now called at-risk instead of withheld. They're trying to get into this category because there's no private anymore. It's either public or private or at-risk. So I have processed every application that has come into our office. And I've read the comments that have been made of wanting to get into the at-risk because they just don't want their information out there. And I think that the pendulum swung way too far in the other direction. I think we should have a private classification, and people should be able to get in there. But it has to be defined within election code and not be able to take definitions from other titles within the statutes and apply them to election code. It has to be specific to election issues. So I'm going to be fighting for you to get that privacy status back with certain limitations. And one of the other misconceptions I want to alleviate also is people believe that anyone can go online and look up somebody else's record and find out how they voted. So no one gets that information of how you voted. It's just simply that you voted. It's a yes or no if you voted in that election or not. Your ballot is still private ballot. Nobody knows how you voted. I can't even find out how somebody voted. So that's just kind of a misconception that's out there. And so basically it's your name, your voter ID number, which means nothing except to us, your address, whether it's mailing address or residential address, what party you belong to, and that you voted. So hopefully that kind of alleviates some of the major concern, because I've had to talk this through with many people who have sent in the request forms, and they really appreciate that I'm willing to call them, and I've called probably 100 people so far and tried to explain through the process of this SB 153. But I am fighting for you to get that privacy status back, but again, with limitations that lie within the election code and not other code that define private differently.